It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. You may not occupy the public spotlight. You may not be trending on social media or recognized by the masses. The world may not yet know your name. Yet in the realm that truly matters, within the courts of heaven, your name has already been proclaimed and celebrated. Every sacrifice you have made, every moment of pain you have endured, every prayer whispered in secrecy has not gone unnoticed. Heaven has observed, documented, and responded. This message serves as divine confirmation. You are acknowledged in places that the human eye has yet to imagine. While the world slept on you, heaven rejoiced over you. And now your earthly reality is poised to align with the reputation that has already been established in the heavenly realm. To help your spirit fully absorb the depth of this truth, we will explore it through 7 comprehensive chapters. Before we proceed, ensure that you like, share, and subscribe, for this message is not merely another video. It is a heavenly directive, a divine reminder specifically crafted for the chosen ones. If your spirit resonates with this frequency, type 77 in the comments below. That number carries more than symbolic significance. It serves as a prophetic signal to heaven, demonstrating that you are in alignment, attentive, and prepared to walk into what has already been ordained for you above. This message is not for everyone. It is intended solely for those whom heaven has marked and whom the world has misunderstood. If you remain engaged with this message, it is because your name has already achieved recognition in the unseen realm, and this word serves as your confirmation. This is not content to be consumed once and set aside. It is a divine archive, rich with layered revelation. Rewatch it as many times as your spirit compels, for each viewing will allow heaven to speak more clearly, unveiling truths that may have been overlooked initially. You are not in the process of becoming known. You have already been seen. Now let us delve into the eternal declarations heaven has made regarding your life, uncovering the fullness of what has always been spoken over you. Let us begin. Chapter 1. You were seen before, you were celebrated long before anyone ever praised you, long before the applause of men could ever reach your ears, and long before the world even began to recognize your strength, your faith, or your growth. Heaven had already acknowledged your existence and purpose, having inscribed your name in its divine record with a certainty that required no validation from human eyes or approval from earthly voices. You did not wait for lights, cameras, or recognition to motivate your steps. Instead, you chose to walk in truth when no one was watching, to serve faithfully when no one noticed, to obey faithfully even when it was painful, and to remain consistent when every effort seemed meaningless, while forgiving offenses that no one ever apologized for, giving generously even when your own resources were scarce, and staying the course despite an unclear and uncertain path that tested your resolve. While the majority needed applause, attention, or external affirmation to keep moving forward, you were driven by alignment with the one who had called you, anchoring yourself in truth rather than seeking validation from the world, fully aware that the trajectory of your life was not measured by popularity or applause, but by the intimate knowledge that God Himself was watching every step, never missing a single moment of your quiet obedience or private sacrifice. Though human praise is fleeting and temporary, the approval of God is eternal. While others were celebrated for the image they projected, heaven honored your integrity, and while people clapped for public performances, God faithfully rewarded every private sacrifice, every prayer uttered when no one else believed, every fast undertaken when no one understood, every act of purity maintained in a polluted culture, and every ounce of hope held fast in an atmosphere of hopelessness. Your life, in its quiet consistency, became a sermon in motion. Your obedience became a living altar, and your journey painted a prophetic picture of what it truly means to serve faithfully without seeking the spotlight. Even when no camera captured your efforts, every kingdom-oriented action was meticulously recorded in heaven, where not one act of faith went unnoticed, and not a single silent cry went unheard. The spiritual battles fought in the privacy of your mind, the warfare that surrounded you while you worshiped, the mental and emotional struggles, and the temptations to give up. All these were seen, noted, and honored by the divine. And yet, despite the weight of every challenge, you continued to stand firm, to show up, to pray, and to believe. And for that reason alone, you had already made headlines in heaven, not because of worldly popularity, but because of spiritual purity, not because of human acclaim, but because of what God Himself observed. The hidden, unseen, and private aspects of your life, those moments behind closed doors, resounded powerfully in heaven, where angels stood in reverence of the decisions you made that no one else clapped for, and where your quiet, faithful service became a testament to the enduring power of obedience and unwavering devotion. And now, the moment that has been quietly prepared throughout your journey has arrived. Not because you have finally reached a point of worldly achievement or garnered the recognition of others, but because you endured the trials, the hidden struggles, and the unseen battles that forged your character. Not because you sought fame or chased exposure, but because you remained steadfast, faithful, and obedient in the places where no human eye could witness your labor, or no voice could acknowledge your perseverance. Therefore, when at last others recognize your worth, remember this truth above all else. Heaven saw you before the applause of men ever reached you, and your rise was not determined by human approval, but by the fact that your name, your purpose, and your steadfastness were already inscribed in heaven as someone who could be trusted, honored, and relied upon. While people celebrated only the surface of your accomplishments, God crowned your spirit, elevating what is eternal above what is temporary. And now, as the promises that have been established above are about to manifest below, it becomes clear that the trajectory of your life has been divinely orchestrated. You were seen by the eyes of heaven long before you were celebrated by the eyes of men. You were chosen for your purpose long before you were publicly acknowledged, and you were marked, prepared, and set apart long before anyone ever mentioned your name or took note of your worth, proving that your destiny was never dependent upon human recognition, but solely upon the faithful attention of the one who holds the record of every faithful act, every unseen struggle, and every quiet victory. Chapter 2. Your silent wars, though invisible to human eyes and unnoticed by those around you, were deafening in the courts of heaven, and beloved chosen one, no one truly perceived the weight of what you carried within your heart, the battles that raged in your mind, or the struggles that pressed upon your spirit as you moved through life with a grace that belied the heavy burdens you bore. You smiled in rooms where your heart was quietly breaking, showed up strong when every fiber of your being felt weak, encouraged others when secretly you longed for encouragement yourself, led prayers while simultaneously waging a private, unseen war. And yet, in the midst of it all, through every trial, every temptation, and every moment of exhaustion, you remained steadfast, loyal, and faithful. What people misunderstood as quietness was in reality discipline forged through spiritual refinement. What appeared as passivity to those around you was in truth a profound and unshakable strength of the spirit. While others assumed that you were avoiding the fight, heaven recognized that you were, in fact, the fight incarnate. You were not loud or boastful, yet in the spirit you were formidable, unyielding, and lethal against the forces that sought to destroy your purpose. Whereas others engaged in battles to be seen and validated by human eyes, your warfare was entirely focused on purity, holiness, and alignment with the will of God, conducted through fervent prayer, extended fasting, wholehearted worship, and intercession on behalf of others. Each strike, each moment of resistance, each act of spiritual warfare meticulously recorded in heaven. There were nights when the weight of your sorrow made your chest ache as you wept with abandon. You whispered questions to God, not from doubt, but from a desire to understand why the path before you was so heavy, why the load was so intense, and why the road demanded so much of your patience, endurance, and faith. And yet, in spite of the pain, the uncertainty, and the exhaustion, you never turned away from your calling. You never cursed God. You never compromised your integrity or surrendered your obedience. Instead, you stayed, you stood, and you waged war with tears instead of rage, with praise instead of panic, and with unwavering faith instead of fear, and heaven meticulously took note of every aspect of your perseverance. Heaven bore witness to the way you walked through betrayal yet chose to bless, the way you endured long delays yet declared the faithfulness of God, the way you handled disappointment with dignity and heartbreak with hope, proving that your life, though often invisible to the human eye, was a living testament to endurance, a quiet yet powerful demonstration of steadfast faith, and a vivid illustration of the strength and discipline required to remain unshakable in the face of trials that no one else could fully comprehend. It sent shockwaves through the very courts of heaven, for your posture was never one of mere performance, but one rooted entirely in divine purpose. You were not striving to prove anything to human observers, but rather, you were diligently protecting the sacred assignment entrusted to you, and the silent wars you wage, though invisible to mortal eyes, were so loud in the spiritual realm that angels were dispatched to stand guard over you, while demons sent with intent to destroy were forced to retreat, unable to break the resilience and steadfastness that defined your spirit. Though you were bleeding spiritually, you continued to build. Though exhaustion weighed heavily upon your body and soul, you continued to trust unwaveringly, and such endurance does not escape the notice of heaven's court. Your name was inscribed in the scrolls of the faithful, not for the gains you accumulated, not for public accolades, not for the victories that others could see, but for the trials you endured, for your steadfast presence when it would have been easier to flee, and for the private triumphs that were recorded in heaven, proving that true strength is measured not by outward applause, but by perseverance in the unseen. You continued to show up for your divine assignment even when it felt unbearably heavy and almost too much to bear, and heaven itself proclaimed, "Mark this one," as you were recognized not simply as a believer, but as a warrior, a battle-tested remnant, a soul forged in adversity that refused to retreat even when darkness surrounded you. And in doing so, you became living proof that faith is not measured by noise or recognition, but by endurance, steadfastness, and lasting commitment. Every tear that fell from your eyes became a prophetic declaration. Every moment you refused to surrender inscribed a new headline in heaven's records. You did not collapse under pressure, you did not compromise your purity for comfort, and you did not abandon your purpose when the circumstances around you made no sense. Instead, you wrestled in secret, and now heaven is poised to reward you openly. What you endured quietly is now being announced publicly. What you overcame without applause is now opening doors ordained by the divine. You were never invisible. You were never forgotten. You were simply being refined in the fires of testing, and the very fire that sought to consume you is now the fire that will propel your rise. Heaven never regarded your battles as small. Your silent struggle echoed louder than sermons, and now your victory will resound louder than the pain you once endured. In this process, you became more than a believer. You became a weapon, a force tempered by trial, a soul equipped for the purposes of God, and your name has already been recorded in heaven, honored, recognized, and awaited for the manifestation of the glory that is now coming to light. Chapter 3. You said yes when others wavered and said maybe, and beloved chosen one, your yes was never light, casual, or convenient. It carried weight, it carried cost, and it carried consequence. For when others hesitated and stalled, you committed without reservation. When others demanded confirmation after confirmation before taking a step, you moved solely by faith, trusting in the unseen hand of God alone. When others procrastinated with a maybe later, you boldly declared, "Use me now." And in that yes, you drew a line in the spirit realm, a declaration of availability for divine purpose, regardless of the personal cost. And you did not utter that yes only with your lips, but you embodied it in your movements, your mindset, and your choices, saying yes in moments of discomfort, in moments of pain, in moments of misunderstanding, mockery, and misinterpretation, even when conformity and crowd following would have been easier. Yet you chose the cross over comfort, and that level of surrender is never lost in the noise of the world, for it reverberates powerfully through the courts of heaven. While others waited for signs, you walked faithfully through silence. While others searched for convenience, you diligently pursued calling. While others demanded perfect clarity, You placed unwavering trust in the character of God, and every act of obedience did not escape divine notice. Every time you relinquished something familiar or good in order to hold fast to what God was orchestrating, heaven took careful note. Every time you resisted worldly approval in order to honor heavenly instruction, every time you walked away from comfort to embrace divine purpose, it was recorded in the scrolls of the faithful. You did not wait for man's green light when you had already received God's go-ahead. You did not follow fleeting trends or popular opinion, but you followed eternal truth. You did not require a platform, an audience, or external validation to say yes. You simply needed His presence, and in that yes, you were marked, set apart, and acknowledged. For heaven observed that you could be trusted not merely with gifts, but with assignments, not only with blessings, but also with burdens, and that your willingness extended beyond the desire to shine to a willingness to serve faithfully and sacrificially in alignment with the purposes of God alone. That yes distinguished you, setting you apart and positioning you not merely as a believer, but as a builder, one who would do more than speak about the kingdom, one who would actively labor to establish it on earth, who would bear the burdens that others abandoned, and who would refuse to quit even when warfare arose all around you. Your yes became a gateway for divine instruction, a summons for heavenly attention, and the very reason why doors that remained closed to others were divinely opened for you. Chosen one, there were moments when your yes cost you relationships. There were seasons when it demanded the sacrifice of popularity. There were times when it left you isolated, stripped, and broken. But it never failed you, because God was using that yes not to destroy you, but to refine you, to mold you, and to shape you into the vessel He intended. You did not negotiate with heaven, you surrendered completely, and that kind of surrender produces a sound in the spirit realm that is louder than applause, deeper than human words, and more powerful than any visible recognition. It is the kind of yes that prompts angels to move and causes demons to tremble. You may not have proclaimed it from rooftops, but in the spiritual realm it thundered with authority. You did not flinch. You did not compromise. You did not delay. You simply said yes, and you meant it with every fiber of your being. That yes did not remain confined to the earth. It ascended, reaching the heavens, creating movement in realms beyond human sight, and it became an indelible part of your divine record. God did not write your name lightly, nor in mere pencil. He etched it permanently into prophecy. For while others were still weighing the cost and calculating the risk, you were already bearing the cross, and heaven, in its perfect memory and wisdom, never, ever forgot it. Chapter 4. Your obedience shattered generational patterns, and beloved chosen one, it was never merely personal, it was prophetic, carrying implications far beyond your own life. For when you chose to follow God, your decision was not limited to yourself, but radiated across the entire bloodline connected to you, and your yes resounded through generations yet unborn. You may have begun this walk seemingly alone, but heaven always knew that you were walking on behalf of many, that your steps were not just about discovering personal purpose, but about breaking cycles that had bound your family for decades, and that in standing where you stood, you became the gap between what had been and what would never be repeated again. While others remained trapped, unconsciously repeating the patterns they had inherited, you determined that the chain of dysfunction, despair, and defeat had to end with you. You did not merely utter a passive prayer of "God bless me," but instead cried out in faith, "God transform everything behind me and everything ahead of me." And that level of obedience is far from ordinary. It is legacy-altering surrender, a deliberate, powerful interruption of what had been considered normal in your lineage, a breaking of cycles of addiction, fear, poverty, dysfunction, silence, control, confusion, and spiritual darkness, all by your steadfast commitment to walk in alignment with the divine will of God. You waged spiritual warfare in prayer over circumstances that others had accepted as permanent, and you fasted with fervent devotion for breakthroughs that your ancestors had never even had the words to ask for, declaring freedom over a bloodline that had known nothing but bondage, interceding for wounds you did not create, and covering lives of people who did not even comprehend the magnitude of your calling. And though human applause may have been absent, heaven bore witness and celebrated your faithfulness, recording every time you turned away from generational patterns as a triumph in the courts of the Spirit. When you deliberately chose the path of healing instead of bitterness, restraint instead of retaliation, and boundaries instead of brokenness, God Himself acknowledged you as the chosen vessel who would rewrite the story, shift the inheritance, and terminate cycles that had been passed down while initiating what was divinely ordained. Chosen one, you became the generational line God elected to inhabit, the doorway for divine reversal, and your obedience became the key that unlocked this transformation. You dismantled systems you did not create. You stood unwavering in the gap for people who never expressed gratitude, and yet you did not falter. You continued to obey relentlessly, even when isolation pressed in, even when pain threatened to overwhelm, and even when relentless pressure made you question everything. And it is precisely this kind of obedience that shakes the unseen realm, summons the attention of heaven, positions angels for action, and ensures that as you rise, entire generations rise alongside you. What you have overcome in the secrecy of your private life will ultimately become a public blessing for your children, and what you have confronted in the spirit realm will ensure that the next branch of your family tree will never endure the same bondage. For even if the full fruit of your labor is not yet visible, the seeds have already been sown, the curse has been shattered, the divine shift is already underway, and heaven has meticulously documented every step, recording headlines the very moment you chose righteousness over resentment and declared, "It ends with me," at which declaration God responded, "It begins again through you." You are therefore a curse breaker, a cycle stopper, a legacy rebuilder, and a spiritual trailblazer, and the intensity of the warfare you have endured is a direct reflection of this reality. For the enemy's strategy was not merely to stop you in your tracks, but to attempt to keep your entire bloodline ensnared in generational bondage. Yet he failed, for you did not falter, you did not retreat, you did not choose comfort over calling, and now the very obedience that demanded sacrifice in relationships, comfort, and familiarity will itself become the obedience that brings healing, prosperity, peace, and divine purpose to all who are connected to your name. Chapter 5, Your Obedience Broke Generational Patterns. Chosen one, your obedience was not just for you, it was also prophetic. When you followed God, it affected your whole family line. Your yes echoed through generations. You may have walked alone, but heaven knew you were walking for many. You were not just finding purpose. You were breaking patterns. You stood between the past and a new future. While others repeated the cycles they inherited, you chose to stop them. You did not just ask God to bless you, you asked God to transform everything behind and ahead of you. That is not ordinary obedience. It is legacy-altering surrender. You interrupted normal family patterns. You stopped cycles of addiction, fear, poverty, dysfunction, silence, control, confusion, and spiritual darkness. You prayed for what others accepted as permanent. You fasted for breakthroughs your ancestors never knew. You declared freedom over a family that only knew bondage. You prayed over wounds you did not cause. You helped people who did not understand your calling. Even if they did not applaud you, heaven did. Every time you left generational behavior behind, heaven recorded it as a victory. When you chose healing instead of bitterness, restraint instead of retaliation, and boundaries instead of brokenness, God said, "This is the one." You are the one who rewrites the story. You are the one who changes inheritance. You end what was passed down and start what is destined. You are the doorway for divine reversal. Your obedience is the key. You broke things you did not start. You stood in the gap for people who did not thank you. You kept obeying, even when it was lonely, even when it hurt, even under pressure. Your obedience shakes the unseen world. It brings heaven's attention. It calls angels into position. When you rise, generations rise with you. What you overcame in private will bless your children in public. What you fought in the spirit will not reach the next generation. You may not see all the results yet, but the seeds are planted. The curse is broken. The shift has begun. Heaven has recorded it. The moment you chose righteousness over resentment, the change started. The moment you said, "It ends with me," God said, "It begins through you." You are a curse breaker. You stop cycles. You rebuild legacy. You are a spiritual trailblazer. That is why the battle was intense. The enemy tried to stop you. He wanted to keep your family in bondage, but he failed. You did not give up. You did not go back. You did not choose comfort. You chose your calling. The same obedience that cost you comfort, relationships, and familiarity will now bring healing, wealth, peace, and purpose to your family. You stood still when everything told you to move. Chosen one, your stillness was not weakness. It was wisdom. When the world told you to rush, you resisted. When people pressured you to act, you stayed in God's presence. When your emotions pushed you out of alignment, you held your ground. Your standing was not passive, it was powerful. In a world obsessed with speed and pressure, stillness is a bold act of faith. You could have forced doors open. You could have manipulated situations to look like progress. You could have settled for less just to appear successful, but you didn't. You trusted that God's plan would not require striving. You believed the promise was real, even if it seemed delayed. You chose posture over panic. You chose patience over pressure. Sometimes it felt like you were missing out. Others were moving ahead while you stayed in the same place. But God was not ignoring you. He was protecting you. He was shielding your purpose and holding you in place. Not because you were unready, but because your moment was not ready to carry your mantle. Your stillness made headlines in heaven. Angels saw the spiritual battles behind your decision to wait. The Spirit celebrated your restraint. Waiting when you could act shows deep maturity. While the world applauded quick actions, heaven applauded your quiet surrender. You did not rely on your own understanding. You did not follow what was popular. You followed God's guidance. Heaven noticed your decision not to compromise, your patience in delay, and your consistency in confusion. These things were not overlooked. Every time you said, "Not yet, Lord," even when you wanted to say, "Let's go," you showed a trust that affects the spirit realm. You did not chase open doors. You waited for the right ones. You did not act on impulse. You moved when God instructed. Your obedience will now be rewarded in a way you could never create on your own. What is coming will not be something you forced. It will be something you were prepared for. God will reward your stillness with movement, your patience with progress, and your discipline with divine acceleration. This next season is not the result of hustle. It is the harvest of humility. The blessing is not delayed. It is being revealed, and it is coming quickly. Your obedience held the line. You did not move ahead of God. You did not take shortcuts. You did not accept fake promises. You waited even when you wanted to run. You waited in the dark until God said, "Now, chosen one." Heaven honors not only what you did, but what you did not do. You did not compromise. You did not settle. You did not panic. You trusted. You endured. You rested, knowing the silence was protection, not rejection. Now the time has come. Your mission is catching up with your moment. What God whispered to you long ago is rising. You will not miss it, and it will not miss you. People will not understand how fast it happened because they did not see how long you waited in secret. You are being lifted, not because you made noise, but because you made space. Not because you forced your way, but because you waited to be called. Now the one who held you back is about to launch you perfectly. Not too soon, not too late, right on divine time. Chapter 6. Your name is known in hell because it is favored in heaven. Beloved chosen one, you may wonder why the battles have been so strong, why attacks come even when you are just living your life, why every time you make progress, something tries to stop you. It is not because you are weak, it is because you are marked. You carry something eternal. You have a divine seal on your life. Hell knows it. You were born into a battle, not because of your mistakes, but because of your favor. Not because of failure, but because of your future. The enemy saw your anointing before you understood your calling. That is why attacks started before you even knew your mission. Hell noticed you the moment heaven whispered your name. Even when you tried to hide, your light still shined. Even when you tried to shrink back, grace kept you safe. You tried to stay quiet, but your spirit spoke. You tried to blend in, but you were never meant to be invisible. There is something in you that hell cannot ignore because heaven keeps supporting you. Your faith, endurance, surrender, and obedience are already recorded in heaven. Your consistency under pressure has also alarmed hell. Your name is known in darkness, not because you obeyed them, but because you threatened their control. The enemy targeted you not because you did wrong, but because you were in position. He attacked hardest when you were closest to a breakthrough. He sent distractions when you were hearing God more clearly. He stirred confusion when you were about to see clearly. He increased the pressure because he could not stop the prophecy. Here is the truth. Hell only fights what heaven favors. The enemy does not know your full destiny, but he senses divine momentum. He sees the spiritual activity in your life. He sees the protection around you. He hears the prayers for you. He notices the impact of your yes, even if you do not. Despite all his attacks, you are still here. You are still chosen. You are still standing. Your survival is not just a miracle, it is a message. What God protects cannot be stopped. Every demonic plot has failed. Every trap has been exposed. Every arrow sent against you has failed because you move by God's Spirit, not by your own power. What you have endured was not just resistance, it was recognition. Hell recognized who you are before some people did. That is why you were attacked for being different. That is why you were isolated, overlooked, and misunderstood. The enemy hoped that if he wore you out, you would give up. But you didn't. You bent, but did not break. You cried, but did not quit. Now heaven is responding. Everything that rose against you will see what God does for those who are faithful. You are about to enter a season where vindication is louder than accusation. Elevation is coming not just to bless you, but to silence every voice that doubted you. The same hell that tried to stop you will watch you rise. Chapter 7. Now earth will catch up to what heaven already knows. Chosen one, your story is already written. Heaven has already celebrated. The headlines were made in glory long before you saw the promise. Now the time has come for earth to catch up to heaven. You are not stepping into something new. You are stepping into something ancient. Your destiny was decided before time. Your purpose was preserved through trials, battles, and waiting. The blessing coming to you is not sudden. It is sacred. It is not random. It is remembered. Heaven never forgot what it said about you, even when you struggled to believe. The seasons of silence were not absence. They were alignment. God was not just building your platform. He was building your posture. He was preparing you quietly, not launching you too early. Now that preparation is complete, the revelation can begin. The divine announcement is happening. You are not becoming who you were called to be. You are revealing who you have always been. Do not be surprised when doors open without you knocking. Do not be alarmed when rooms call your name. Rooms you did not campaign for. Rooms you did not ask for. Rooms you are not qualified for on paper. This is not coincidence. This is divine confirmation. This is heaven saying, now it's time. People may wonder how it happened so fast. They may ask, where did you come from? The truth is, you have always been. You were always anointed. You were always chosen. You were always carrying glory. You were just hidden. Now the hiding season is over. Earth is merely catching up to what the spirit realm has already recognized. For you were crowned in the dark, affirmed in the fire, and approved in the wilderness. And now at last the manifestation is aligning with the mantle, and the prophecy is intersecting with the platform, revealing that this is not the beginning, but the unveiling, and that you are not moving out of ego, but through evidence, with nothing left to prove. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. If you're eager for more, whether additional chapters to this spiritual journey or a powerful visual concept for a video or thumbnail, simply just say the word. I'm here and am ready to help bring it all to life.